You're a dungeon master. You know the Wizard's Tower. It's a classic D&D spot, maybe a little quirky, definitely filled with towering bookshelves, probably run by a slightly senile mage who needs to go fetch something. We've all seen it. But I have had an increasing number of requests to create a Wizard's Tower for the Really Quick Maps series, and I wanted to create something that felt like it had really thought through creating a wizard's lair, something that didn't just use the concept of magic, but the specific spells and abilities of a certain set of mages. So today, I'm creating the Tower of an Evocation Wizard. Hello adventurers and welcome back to the Red Quills. My name is Ryan, and today I'm going to set fire to several things and create a tower which should hopefully terrify your players. We're going to create a lair for a wizard who is experimenting with evocation spells. We're going to use some spells as the basis for the defenses of the towers. We're going to use items and materials as well as creatures that he could summon and other abilities to create not only the lair, but the lair actions and the minions that he will have throughout the tower, as well as its defenses. So if that interests you, strap on in. Let's see what we can create. I'm going to get my little black book. I'm going to open it up and start by creating this tower. Now, before we lay a single stone, we have to get inside the architect's head. So who is this evoker? The School of Evocation is all about raw power. It's about mastering fire and lightning and pure force. It's the basic wizard, really. If you're just starting playing a wizard and you want to just throw fireballs, this is who you want to be. They are intense, they are focused, and they're sometimes pretty detached from the consequences of their work. They see magic not as some subtle art, but as a tangible, controllable force for, well, explosive change. And in this particular case, the reason that I chose evocation is because it's kind of the base wizard. I will probably follow this up, if people like this video and they want to see more, with a whole series on how to do wizards of different classes, because I think that, for instance, a divination wizard's tower, someone who can foresee the outcomes of certain choices, or an abjuration wizard's tower, someone who can just punt invaders out of the tower and into a different dimension. I think those are both very, very cool, and I think we can use them in a specific way. But I wanted to start with something fairly simple, just dealing damage, and so we'll go with the evocations. And our wizard isn't collecting weird trinkets. They are a weaponsmith. Their own mind is a weapon. Their tower is just an extension of that. It's a lab, it's a training ground, it's a fortress all in one. Forget plush chairs and fancy tapestries. This wizard is Spartan. Their goal isn't just to study magic, but to perfect it as a destructive art. So let's create Kaelan Scourge. Kaelan believes that the world's biggest threats, like abyssal incursions or tyrannical empires, you name it, can only be stopped by overwhelming force. He thinks diplomacy is just stalling and subtlety is for cowards. He doesn't want power, he doesn't want gold, he wants the raw firepower to unmake anything that he decides is a threat. His tower isn't a home, it's his workshop and his artillery platform. Every choice that we make flows from this. Function over form, power over comfort. Kaelan isn't waiting for a fight to come to him, he is preparing for when it does, and he plans to end it decisively. So what we're creating here isn't necessarily a bad wizard. We're not starting with a necromancer, someone who is automatically evil in the concept of the world. Again, arguable with necromancers. But what we want is a wizard who thinks his way through problems, who has foreseen a particular threat and has decided to act on it in a very destructive way. And that way you can introduce him not just as, a purely evil, bad guy, but if your players are fighting against a big threat and they find out that a wizard is also working to end that threat through methods that they disapprove of, it gives them a secondary antagonist that they can work with. But of course, if you want to make Kaelan a bad guy, it's entirely up to you. You can do that. So let's first of all place the tower while I'm sketching the outskirts. And a guy like Kaelan isn't building his tower in a busy city or in a happy little valley. He is not a village wizard. People are a liability. They are a distraction, they ask questions, and worst of all, they become collateral damage. No, Kaelan would pick somewhere that drips with raw, untamed power, like the caldera of a dormant volcano, which lets him tap into that geothermal energy, or a jagged rock spire in the middle of a perpetual thunderstorm, perfect place to channel lightning. Maybe a desolate, glassed desert from some ancient magical war where he can cut loose with his biggest spells without worrying about the neighbors. Just getting to the tower should feel like a bit of an adventure. And the tower itself, While I'm not making an elegant, slender spire here, it is a brutalist monolith of granite, fused with magic. The walls are thick, angled to deflect attack, and whatever windows they have are tall and thin to stop projectiles. The few slits that it has are for shooting beams of energy, not arrows. And the very air around the tower crackles. A permanent alarm spell stretches out for a mile, pinging Kaelan's mind the second anyone crosses the line. The land itself is his guard dog. It's sustained by a series of rune wards around it, which the players, if they find out about it, could disarm so that Kaelan doesn't know that they are coming. But that kind of thing is the very first layer of defense that a wizard will set up. An alarm spell is so useful. When your players finally reach the entrance, there's no welcoming gate. It is a single seamless slab of polished basalt. No handle, no lock, no hinges. It is magically sealed and does not care about your knock spell. The only way in is with a specific command word, or more likely for Kaelan by showing it a magical key that he carries, like a tuned focus crystal. And that's the first active defense. Scrawled around the door, almost invisible, are layered glyphs of warding. The first might trigger something simple, like a gust of wind to shove intruders back and let him know that they're there. If they don't take the hint, the next glyph unleashes a targeted blast of force. A third could hit them with Thunderwave to deafen or fling them away. And these aren't just traps, they are statements. Kaelan is saying, turn back. The first warning is a shout, the second is a punch, the third is a cannon blast. And I think that really works here, especially if you're portraying Kaelan as a person who has good intentions. He doesn't want to just outright kill people who sit on his doorstep. He wants to turn them away to give them what he considers to be fair warning. Now, a wizard's tower should be a logical climb, and each level gets you closer to the wizard's secrets. And for Kaelan, that means each floor gets more dangerous and more essential to his work. So getting past the door doesn't lead to a grand hall. It opens into a stark 30-foot circular room of this same featureless stone. The air is cold. In the center of the room, a single ever-burning flame just sort of floats there. It casts creepy, dancing shadows, gives off no heat. There are no chairs, no art, just oppressive silence and the circular stare. This room is a filter. The floor is a grid of pressure plates. Step on the wrong tile, jets of flame or arcs of lightning will shoot out from the wall, firebolts or chain lightning. You could design it as a puzzle where the safe path is hidden in the stonework, or maybe you have to watch the central flame flicker for a minute to see the pattern. An observant player might spot scorch marks around certain tiles, leftovers from Kaelan's own trial runs. But here's the real kicker. Kaelan is an Evocation Wizard, and thanks to the Evoker's Sculpt Spells feature, which heads up they now get at level 6 in the new 2024 rules, he can carve out pockets of safety in his own AoE spells, and that means that he can stroll right across the floor, which triggers a room-filling fireball or thunderbolt that he and anyone else he designates are completely immune to, while everyone else gets incinerated. And guarding the far side is his first real sentry, a shield guardian, or maybe a pair of fire elementals. They're not just dumb muscles, they are part of the room's system. Fire elementals might even dive into jets of flame from the walls, makes them impossible to hit while they launch their own attacks. Again, this is his way. When you get to being a high-level wizard and you can cast, massive spells at absolute whim, I think you start to become a little bit detached from the consequences of those spells. So he is here still doing what he considers to be dissuading people from going further. This isn't trying to kill them, he's just saying go away. So when he launches a 6th level fireball into a large circular room full of people, he might fully expect them to be able to cast a shield spell and think, you know what, fair enough, I'm not where I'm wanted. Whether or not that kills them, he doesn't necessarily think through. If you survive the gauntlet and climb the spiral stairs, your players will probably expect a treasure room, and instead they find the living quarters. They are, the one exception, shockingly bare. This floor is all about his ascetic lifestyle. It's one open space with a hard bed, a thin blanket, a small wooden table with one chair and a wash basin, and, of course, the walls lined with bookshelves. Every wizard needs them, but apart from the books, that's it. No mementos, no art. This isn't a home, it's a barracks, for one. And the whole point of this room is to show and not tell what Kaelan is all about. He doesn't care about comfort. A sharp-eyed character might notice faint, hair-thin lines of silver and copper in the mortar between the stones, which is a subtle network of magical conduits running through the whole tower. Even this room is defended. A single chest at the foot of his bed is trapped, of course, but the real defense is more clever. This is his meditation chamber. The entire room is under a permanent silence spell that only he can turn off. If a fight breaks out here, Any spellcaster relying on verbal components is suddenly useless. Kaelan, on the other hand, probably has developed ways to cast his key spells without speaking, which gives a massive home field advantage. And more than that, any number of animated objects can be used here. Smothering rugs or flying books or pieces of furniture that attack the players as they enter and realize that they're not Kaelan. Then you move further up to the third level, and this is where it becomes clear what Kaelan is really up to. This floor isn't a library, it's an armory. But instead of bookshelves, there are racks holding dozens of wands and staves, not necessarily legendary artifacts, but tools of the trade. Wands of magic missiles, staves of firebolt, and so on. The walls are lined with lead-lined cabinets and magically chilled chests. Open them and you won't find gold. You'll find barrels of sulfur and guano for fireballs, all sorted by purity. You'll find chests of powdered amber for lightning bolt, graded by quality. This isn't a pantry, it's a munitions depot. The sheer amount of stuff here should tell your players that this wizard isn't casting a few spells a day, he is prepping for a full-scale war. The defenses are just as pragmatic. Every cabinet is magically locked and trapped. Open the sulfur cabinet the wrong way, it might combust, filling the room with a toxic cloud. Try to pry open the amber chest, you'll get a paralyzing jolt of electricity. Players might also find that his notes here, not on philosophy, but on the precise crystalline structures needed for a wand that can handle an overcharged chain lightning, can be used to either their benefit or to his detriment. And speaking of obsessive, I know that you DMs will have your own ideas for how to create a wizard's tower. If you've done a wizard's tower before, if he was an evocation wizard like Kaelan here, what did you do in your own tower? I'd be very keen to hear how you use certain spells in particular ways. I've really tried to maintain only the really practical spells like Alarm or the evocation spells and the defenses here. As we go on further and we get to conjuring spells or abjuration, we can use more of those. But I'd be very keen to hear your approaches to it. Because the last flight of stairs ends at a heavy adamantine trapdoor. The air humming through the cracks smells like ozone and brimstone. Push it open, you're in the heart of his operation, the rooftop lab. This isn't an enclosed room. The roof is an open-air platform, exposed to the very elements that Kaelan seeks to control. The floor is a complex mosaic of glowing runes and energy channels. In the center, a massive, crackling sphere of contained ball lightning hovers between three humming crystals, and that's his main power source. And all around are his experiments, a scorched metal mannequin, clearly a target for new spells, a shimmering portal to the elemental plane of fire held stable for now. Lightning rods jut from the edges, channeling energy from the sky into glowing capacitors. The whole area is a tinderbox. Any stray spell here could be catastrophic. You could even make a volatility table. Every time a spell is cast up here, you roll a d20. On a low roll, something wild happens. Maybe a crystal overloads, which sends stray lightning bolt across the roof, or the portal into the fireplane spits out a couple of angry magmins. And this is the tower's weapon. This is its function. From here, Kaelan has a 360-degree view. The battlements give him cover. The runes on the floor can amplify his spells, maybe doubling their range or maximizing their damage. It's not just a lab, it's a spell sniper's nest. A final fight with Kaelan up here would be a desperate struggle against not just him, but the chaotic, explosive environment that he calls his workshop. And he would know the environment better. He wouldn't have to worry about the volatility of the magic because he is familiar with it. And I've also given two other options to make the fight with him a little bit more climactic. On the right-hand side, you have the Kennels, a floating tower chained to the top of his own tower that has the cages in which he keeps the various elementals or constructs or summons that he has made. On the other side, I've given the option for an egg, which is entirely up to you. It could be an extremely large fire elemental. It could be something that evokes that sort of evocation, like a Leviathan or a storm giant child. Or if you really wanted to be just nasty to your players, it could be a Tarrasque baby. It's entirely up to you what he's preparing for, but I think that that's a fun option to have as the boss fight. Because a tower this specialized isn't empty. Kaelan's a recluse, not an idiot. He needs servants and research subjects. He wouldn't hire unreliable goblins. His minions are as functional as his tower. Animated armors patrol the lower floors. An invisible stalker might be his personal assistant, fetching components. He might even have a terrified apprentice who wanted power, but is now in way too deep. And that apprentice might be a great ally for your party if they can be persuaded to turn on their master. The tower is a powder keg, which makes it perfect for adventure hooks. Kaelan could give quests to retrieve certain items or textbooks or pieces of artifacts for his own research, or he could be the end result of a given quest. If the local townspeople are afraid of Kaelan, if he's preparing for a large assault on an elemental plane, then they could be aware that he's developing a meteor swarm spell. Or the third option is that he is the midpoint. Someone has sent you to him to defeat him, but once you arrive, he tells you what he's preparing for. He is preparing for the Tarask underneath the city to wake up, and he believes that only the spells that he is creating here, massive fireballs and chain lightnings or meteor swarms, are capable of killing it. We went from a basic idea, an Evoker's Tower, and made a fully realized fortress which is built around that story. We started with the why, the wizard obsessed with power, and from there we built out. We designed a defensible location and a tower where every flaw reflects his destructive work. And here's the key takeaway. A great D&D location is more than just what lives in it. It is the location, the map itself. It has to have a personality and a purpose. When you build from the story of its creator, you create a space that is more coherent, more logical, and far more memorable for your players. Now, it's your turn. Create your own Wizard's Tower and let me know what you do when you create it. What defenses would you put in place? I've only really mentioned a few evocation spells here, but there are so much more that you could use to really attack people who come into the tower. More layers that you could add onto it, more ways of using glyph of warding or summoned servants, or even constructs that have glyphs on them so that you can have, double delayed traps. So how would you use it? How would you develop it? Let me know in the comments below. I'd be so keen to hear all of your ideas. And again, if you like this, please do comment and like and subscribe, but let me know so that I can create more Wizards Towers based on the different classes of wizards. So that should be fun. But I think we finished up here. We have Kaelan's Tinder, our fully realized map of the tower, and I think it looks pretty sexy if I'm being honest. But what we will do is I am going to leave you there for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you, as always, to the community that supports me. Those of you who are watching weekly, it's just absolutely amazing to have you guys. To my patrons and my YouTube members, you make it possible for me to do what I do, and I can't thank you enough. And if you want to join this community, if this is your introduction to this, if you haven't joined the Discord already, please do. The link is in the description below. We have a couple hundred map makers on there. We trade ideas and talk about concepts and post our maps as well. So it's great to have more and more people joining in all the time. So please do join that there. And in any case, I will leave that there. And I will see you all next week for the next episode of the Really Quick Maps. But until then, happy mapping. And I'll see you then. Okay. I think we're ready. Drink. But remain hydrated.